Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the best Zerg player this side of the Atlantic. In the red, we have Scarlet. Facing off against the Cartographer, the Terran in blue, we have Percival. In a best of 3 Terran versus Zerg showdown between two of the best players who probably aren't showing up in your YouTube feed every other day. But you can help change that by smashing that like button and maybe even subscribe before we get started. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,685 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the first lings as the Reaper goes to work. But Scarlet sacrificing a few lings in order to get the third base out safely. She's managed to get enough gas for Zergling speed, Queens, and a third base before the Reaper showed up. So having her hatchery and her creep spread too. But Percival, not to be outdone, of course, has 3 command centers back at home and a reactor factory on the way. Well, the barracks did all the work, but the factory is going to take all the credit. Which, you know, typical. Progress marches on. Meanwhile, the Queens, politely yet firmly, ushering the Reaper away, and gonna start double Creep Tumor opener. Now, 2 Creep Tumors within about yay distance, where they can, like shouting distance, they can spread twice as quickly. Now, this was a lot more relevant back in Heart of the Swarm, like 4 years ago. Remember when Scarlet used a Baneling Mine against Bomber? 2014? Well, the point is, creep spread now twice as fast. And before the Terrans get upset, it also recedes twice as fast. So, spreading the creep quickly is not quite as much of a logistical accomplishment as it once was, but Scarlet still goes above, beyond, and kind of oozes dramatically across the field, in much the way many others don't. So, a standout, and now the Queen still, though, outstripping the creep and getting caught in the corner. Mildly to moderately annoyed by the Reaper Hellion, whose almost entire purpose is to make sure their life's work is harder. So, the Reaper's coming in and... Get off my creep! Brenda, are you okay? I haven't been okay since 2010! It was kind of rhetorical. You're just supposed to say I'm good. Shouldn't have asked. Sorry. I blacked out for... Cloak Banshee's on the way. Creep on both sides. The safety sloaches now. Scarlet actually skipped getting Zergling speed in favor of a very quick lair. And I think with killing off that Reaper and making sure she gets the roaches out, she got the speed just in case. Because some Terrans are still fancy enough to think they're going to go for the double Rax Reaper play. So if you don't get Zergling speed, you can't get to roaches in time. It's just logistically improbable. But if it's just Hellions later on, the roaches should be more than ready by the time the Hellion count is dangerous. So Scarlet taking advantage, kind of a flexible build, but ends up headed towards a very quick lair. A few roaches, 4 bases, and it's already begun. The creep spread metastasizing to either side. A few tumors going to get cut down, but the Hellions in turn. The Cloak Banshees, clearly spotted by the Queens as one of them at half HP. 5 gas geysers on the way simultaneously. Production booming right now. And that 4th hatchery, the most important part of things. With 4 hatcheries, you don't need a huge drone count. You have the larva. It's looking like a massive roach hammer sort of build. And one of the Queens, there's enough for a transfuse. Gonna get chased down, tries to snipe it off. But, oh no, the Hellions! Scarlet! Well, the Banshees will get taken down. It's a bit of a massacre for both sides, as both Banshees and all the Hellions will get taken out. But Scarlet loses 14 drones to the Hellions, too busy taking out the Banshees. And to be fair, she did. Alright, the Banshees knocked out of the sky with ease, but the Hellions kind of slipped in uncontested. And 14 drones is quite a sizable number at this stage of the game, before Scarlet even got to 60. But, of course, with 4 hatcheries and plenty of Queens willing to inject them, it's a real competition. But already up to a 5 drone lead. Getting those drones before the 50 count, it's better to kill 5 drones when they have 30 than it is to kill 15 at 50 or 60. It's just that exponential growth of the Zerg in every possible way. As the tumors spreading across the map, the hatcheries are injected, the production is ramping up, and it's going to be harder and harder for Percival to get anything done that Scarlet doesn't already know about. Not that Marines and Marauders have particular... Even adding a Marauder in this early. Now, yes, it is roaches, but rarely do you see it now. Marauder goes in, Marauder goes out. Can't explain that. It was a cute attempt there, but doesn't end up working out. Immediately sniped off. 1-1 is done. Percival will have about a 30-second upgrade advantage over Scarlet. Especially now that he's already started the +2. A hive on the way. 2 infestors. Those kind of pre-hive infestors. A stopgap, quite literally, to make sure no critical damage can be done by the first push of, say, Marines, tanks, maybe some medevacs mixed in, just hypothetically. But oh, complete coincidence. We have Marines, tanks, and some medevacs mixed in. Fungal thrown out, corrosive bile to knock out the siege tank. 3 Ravagers, able to take it out with ease. And Percival's down 40 supply. Now, these are Roaches and Ravagers. Okay, they aren't the cream of the crop, but there's a whole lot of crop here. And sometimes quantity has a quality all its own. 3 Widow Mines at a time. Drilling Claws on the way. I'm not sure Percival is really respecting the fact that this is Roach Ravager. Fungals and Corrosive Bile as Percival pushes up onto the creep. Ultralis Cavern is already on the way as Scarlet just bashing through the siege tank, forcing the Marines to abandon the fight. But the Ultralis Cavern is halfway there. The creep spread 5 at a time down the center. 8.5 minutes in. Creep is at 50% of the map and counting. Or I guess creeping. However you want to measure it. Scarlet is the only player I feel like we really do need a creep counter. What percentage of the land area of Tokamak is currently creeped? And at what rate per minute? I feel like these are the kind of baseball level stats we need. But Zerglings without speed. I don't think Scarlet realized until they were actually part of the fight here. Gets up to the high ground. Corrosive about to zone it out. Still no 2-2 upgrades. Viper's on the way. Oh my. Scarlet setting up for a counterattack, but there's already a 4th command center at a planetary, well, as a planetary fortress done, so unlikely the Zerglings, speed or otherwise, are going to get anything. Does she have Adrenal Glands queued up behind? Not quite. Baneling Nest. Feel like just realizing maybe these are things I should have at this stage, but Scarlet is maxed out. More infestors on the way. Scatters the corrosive biles across the board. And the creep tumors are already queued up. As the fight is going on, pretty confident she's going to take out this army. And correct in doing so. Oh my. This is, absolutely ridiculous. Ghost Academy's on the way. Another base down the center. Adrenal Glands. Already 53 creep tumors. But Percival, his armor upgrade is pretty far behind the attack, but 3-2 is on the way. Ultralis with chitinous plating. Nearly completed. I assume we have the speed upgrade queued up behind. Indeed. Ultralis speed in production. At those Adrenal Glands. And the Infestor's going the wrong path and will be popped like overripe tomatoes. Taken down. The Ravager count is so damn high. 14 Ravagers as part of the army. Viper's full energy. Blinding Cloud to hold him down. Widowmine thins out a lot of the Zerglings. They ended up being a pretty great choice. And Percival actually going for the mixed bag of mines and tanks as opposed to one or the other. Mixing in the variety of Terran units. Variety is the spice of life. And the spice must flow. The Ultra targeted down with ease. That many Marauders already mixed in, trying to come around the corner. Parasitic Bomb of one of the medevacs immediately quarantined. Ravagers following up the Ultralisk in quite an awkward angle. Almost blocking the base with creep. In fact, the Ravagers might be able to bring it down, but down to the 6 o'clock. Percival, with another battle group, is able to take down one of the hatcheries. And a much more relevant one down the center will be taken out as well. A single Ultralisk leading the charge. Corrosive Bile just knocks out one of the command centers in training. Meanwhile, another Ultra chews through the Widow Mine. Not able to get the bio. Another hatchery down. That's 2. Scarlet, dead even on supply. Not an ideal place to be against a Terran with this much bio. Terran through yet another Ultra. The Queen's getting distracted. The Transfuse is finally coming through. The Ultra holding on, and the Queens aren't enough. Now healing. Going to be able to take out multiple Queens. And Scarlet, oh no, it's a disaster. Has lost so much. Scarlet losing a similar amount of resources, which I really didn't expect when I dramatically brought this tab up, but Percival was able to hold on to 4 bases, knock out 2.5 hatcheries, like half a dozen Ultralists, and actually take the supply lead for a moment. But it doesn't last. There's 4 more Ultras in production. And as an arguably great man, Hydra once said, when I'm really far ahead and I want to lose, I build Ultras. Well, Ultras are arguably better than they were in that day. But the theme applies. A unit at least half the size of your mother trying to trundle its way through the alleyways of a base against a bunch of dudes with drugs, guns, and a hatred of illegal aliens. Well, while it feels familiar, it doesn't necessarily seem like a great idea. The medevacs dropping at the back, and bases all across. Ultras trundling through, but the Zerglings struggling to deal with this. The Queens trying to deal, but a bunch of ghosts and another base to the left side. The base trade begins. Those are not speed mains, Scarlet. Just waddling in with the Banelings. The Ultras will take the brunt of the Widow Mines, but the Banelings, oh no, the Nidus network is disconnected. The hatchery is taken down, and hatcheries are dropping by the second. How many has she lost? 4 hatcheries so far, and Percival hasn't been made to pay much for it. Will lose his 3rd, but takes out 2 hatcheries yet again. And Scarlet is down to 65 drones. Doesn't have a huge amount in the bank either. Percival, though, does have to deal with it. Another Queen is taken down with a dying shot of the Marauder. But the ghosts around the corner, EMP over the top. Still enough energy on the Vipers, but Baneling speed is still not... Scarlet is building 6 hatcheries at a time. What are you, a Terran? What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hatcheries. Well, hatcheries are not creep tumors. They do cost significantly more. Or infinitely more, I guess, if you want to be pedantic. But how do you value energy versus mineral conversion rates? Okay, is energy going to the moon, or is the moon coming to us? And more things. Invest in a winter coin at a like and subscribe near you. Get in on the ground floor, or the moon floor. Either way. I digress. Oh, wow. Percival, understanding I think he saw the infestor sign. So, the tile set of the map makes it a lot easier. But that doesn't mean the Ultras can't come trundling through. El Chapo-less now. With speed and kindness plays 6 more Ultras in production. Those things cost as much as a hatchery. They do, actually. 275 minerals both nowadays. Of course, a bit more gas as well. Scarlet, 2 out of the 6 hatcheries she's attempted, taken, or managed to complete. The creep has been driven back. Percival's been doing an incredible job of driving back the Zerg, as well as dealing with the economy. And Scarlet has been doing an incredible job of showing us how much you can lose and still bounce back. It has been an increasingly cost-ineffective set of units. But if Scarlet can hold Percival to a single base and eventually just use it as an anvil to hammer the Terran army into much smaller pieces of Terran army, well, that's the ideal. But yet another hatchery is going to be taken out. That's number 5. As well as the ones that were canceled before they could even come to fruition. Building armor on the way. Nidus Worm at the back. Percival does still have a lot in production, so not suffering from success, not maxed out. Scarlet. 85 drones. Somehow bounced back from all of that. The Nidus distracts some of the units. Yanks in a tank. Blinding Cloud around the corner. Parasitic Bomb over the top. Ultralisk go obliterated, but there's more where that came from. Some fungals thrown out. Great one just cuts right into the Marauders. Scatters the corrosive bile. Somehow almost every single SCV evaded it, but 8 SCVs dead. And Percival cannot afford to be playing defensive. Yes, he needs to hold the bases, but Scarlet just keeps expanding to the entire map. The most Zerg gameplay I've ever seen, for better or worse. So far, both. She's lost so much. And has so much yet to lose. 26,000 resources versus 22k. We're only 16, 17 minutes in. The constant scans, acknowledging the danger that these Serral Festers pose. They're Scarlet Festers when you build them before they have Burrow or Hive. But when they're sharking around at this stage of the game, they're Serral Festers. Alright? That's just how it works. A transfer of ownership. I want to be, you have to give credit, otherwise it's copyright infringement. Oh no, another drop. The Queen, Brenda, no! I told you to stop using Apple Maps! I don't... Well, the Queen's caught off the creep, which they were so desperately trying to perpetuate, takes out her own Ultralisk with Corrosive by, huh? The Liberator's overhead, a little bit off the mark with some of the Corrosives. Meanwhile, the Bio Army is kiting back. More Ultras will be sent to the units. Lost tab, another hatchery dead. Oh my. The entire flock has been taken out at this point. Scarlet's down 40 supply. It's a disaster. Once again, the drones transferring from the fire into the frying pan and from the frying pan into the line of fire. Snipe, Blinding Cloud. Blinding Cloud does nothing but make him upset. More drops into the main. A drop of doom and now targeting the Hive. The tech tree could be cut off at the stump. Scarlet with 7 more Ultras on the way. I don't know, Kev. The full NA Zerg. Oh no. Sometimes before asking whether or not you could, I think you should ask whether or not you should. And with 8 more Ultras in production, Scarlet is well past the questions phase and now on the finding out phase. 20 drones dead, 20 supply down. Percival has expanded to the entire top half of the map. The production tab is optimistic at best. The Vipers are consuming what few hatcheries remain. Banelings have been produced. Is there still an infestor out there somewhere? There are 2. Waiting for their moment. Scarlet somehow... Well, Percival with Mule Mountain and the takedown... Percival is so good about scanning, knowing the weakness here. Who else does this? Just build turrets. It's not hard. They're not expensive. They're 100 minerals. They're 2 Marines. Percival's just building turrets across the board. No one does this. Infestor, Fungal, still didn't help him against this. Huge Fungals, chops through, eviscerates half the ghosts. The other half will survive for now, but the Banelings trickle in and take down the majority. 1 survives. Ultras chewing through the north side, and despite all his preparation, through all the fire and fury, the Ultras are able to cleave through, doubling down, tripling down, some amount of exponents down. The Ultralists are barely enough, and Scarlet breaks even. 2 more hatches on the way. She's lost 30 Ultras, but there's still more to go. The problem is, the lower the economy gets, the harder it is to compete on even footing with the Terrans. Your feet just so much larger. And check out more of my Dronely fans. Percival just holding on to such a... Enough of the map. Scarlet unable to land the Fungals at the right time. Viper targeted down. Parasitic bomb. The Marines will be left behind, but objective accomplished. How does Scarlet have 78 drones? What is wrong with you? How does that happen? What? She's got 80 drones again. She's got the income lead. Did she buy a booster pack or something? No, don't build more. Gonna go to 90 drones. I think the time for 90 drones has passed, but you know what? She survived this long. Bit of confirmation bias there, but the Widowmine's dragged out. Parasitic bomb. Another Liberator, though. Some Corruptors on the way as Scarlet finally investing in the Spire. Acknowledging that Liberators and Medevacs are definitely A dangerous combination. Not quite enough energy for Fungal. Medivacs pull back. The Corruptors will knock out the Liberator. My gabbers are flasted right now. With this many drones, wow. Scout has lost 8 hatcheries. But somehow still has most of the map. What a chaotic game. Percival has survived. And the fact he's been pretty comfortably mining from the top left corner is going up to 6 orbital commands and counting. This Liberator just racking up the kills. Drop in the main base. The creep spread a pale shadow of what it once was. But still. Well, trying to turn it around. The Marauders, though, intimidating the Ultras. The Infestor coming up, but just a little bit late. One Ultra targeted. Percival's done some very solid micro against these. But wait, there's more! The Infestor trying to get involved. 4 Ultras remain. Great Fungal down the center, but the Widowmon softens up some more. Drops out the other side of the Bio Army. And suddenly the Ultras are the ones being surrounded by the Terrans. Not exactly the place they want to be, but oftentimes they never find themselves there. Consuming the hatchery, and Percival would be double digits. Oh, wow. The Stims have brought many of these into the red, but lines up their shots and knocks out. I think the Ghosts win this fight, unless they get blinding clouded, but the last words of the Ghosts are never say die, which, you know, makes sense. 4 more Ultras and 3 more 38 Ultras. The Up'em. The Ultras lost per minute at 1.5. This map should be renamed Ultra Hate in order to make it accurate and fit with the theme of maps we have in the pool. But Scarlet, either very much... I feel like it's a love-hate relationship. Loves Ultras and also hates them for what they are. But here we are. Sir, do you have a permit? I got your permit right here. Look up. Yeah. Another drop. Widowmon takes out a Corruptor, but the mine drops, finding some more damage. Scarlet still has 83 drones. This is madness. I swear. It goes around the corner, lining up their shots before the Infestors can get close. EMP lands, burrows the Infestors out of the way, but the Ultras... That's too many shots, too many kills, too many Ghosts, and 2 Gs. Percival survives game number 1. 11 hatcheries, 100 drones, 43 Ultralisks, 60,000 resources lost. An absolute bloodbath. A lot of bones in that trench. And almost all of them Zerg. Scarlet with some inspired plays, but also a dogged commitment to maybe a less than ideal strategy. It looked good right up until it didn't. And then it looked good again because Scarlet refused to die, built every single hatchery she could, lost half of them, and was still left with like 4 more hatcheries. So I'm surprised there weren't any Hydras involved with how many times it felt like Scarlet's head got cut off and came back. But here we are. Game 2. And yes, part of the Little Fairy clan is Percival, which is quite something. Meanwhile, Shopify for Scarlet. I mean, any one of those fights could have gone the other way. But Percival was doing such a great job. Now, that's the downside of going for the Ultras over the Lurkers. There's a reason why Lurkers are a much more common choice when the game's close. Because there is only so much you can do against Lurkers. There's always more you can do against Ultras. Considering that Marines and Marauders are slightly faster when they stim off of creep than Ultralisks, means you can kite to the ends of the earth. And then you can pick up into Medivacs and fly to the other end and try it all again. Much to the dismay of, well, I won't name names. Me. But a full NA strategy. NA known for the commitment. Well, one, less than accomplished gameplay. Every once in a while we get players like Scarlet or Neeb or Estrella having a breakout performance, but the North American server is a bit of a clown fiesta. Not necessarily in a bad way, but with a headstrong take on the game, as opposed to that min-maxed perfection you'll sometimes see outside of it. So, Scarlet representing, though maybe not in the way he was hoping for this time around. I gotta say, Percival with some great strategic game. Scarlet was too busy losing Ultralisk. Nobody cares about the Reaper, Jimmy. Shut up. Scarlet was too busy losing Ultralisk that game for me to really pontificate too much. But just building turrets to spot for the infestors. So you can get into the mathematical, misguided argument about how much a scan costs. A mule mine's around 250 minerals in its life. It's short, eventful, and controversial life. So a scan essentially means you don't have those minerals. But that's not really true, is it? Those minerals are still there. They're just not mined as quickly. But the point is, the less scans you have to use... Now, we both know Terrans would rather cut off their hand, feed it to their firstborn child, and then feed their firstborn child to their other hand, which has somehow anthropomorphized into some sort of... I'm imagining like a chest, like a Baldur's Gate, like you open a chest. I can't remember what those are called. Anyways, that. Then build a Raven. That's what I'm getting to here. Even here, Percival not building a Raven. Now, there are real arguments for that, which are, one, it's a lot of gas, and you have to have a Tech Lab starport. It's completely counterintuitive to micro. It's not a great unit to have when you have mineral-only choices. But so few players will just build the missile turrets. If you build 5 missile turrets and you spot even 1 infestor before the fungal, that was worth it. And that's the kind of stuff Percival does that, even though on paper, not as strong as many of the other Terran players, at least yet, he is willing to add in those little details, which is why I find him so interesting. Now, sometimes being a little creative and breaking out of the mold as Terran means you fail horribly, which is also why we don't see Percival as often. Getting a little too creative. But we gotta find that happy balance. Like, we gotta have that dark level of balance where you can do whatever you want, but it still works. Because if you do whatever you want and it doesn't work, you're just called a loser. Sorry. Like and subscribe for Existential Dread. Overlord? Yeah, we can all see. It's 3cc with Banshees. Goodbye. Well, Overlord dies exactly how you might expect. Double NG Bay after the 2 racks, so not the greediest, but still quite a greedy play. Laying those down after killing the Overlord, so not letting Scarlet know. The Roach is out in front. That double Evo for Scarlet going to be significantly later than Percival's upgrades again. Though it wasn't a huge factor at the last game. It definitely... Now, some things like not having Zergling or Baneling speed definitely factored in to some of those early, late game timings. Okay, you know what I meant. Like, as we get to 200 supply, and you're trying to take advantage of it. This time around, hopefully, gonna be on point. And the Banshees... already pushed away. Aliens looking for their opportunity to randomly get 15 drones again. And they may find it. The roaches, wow, just committed. This shouldn't do as well. Gonna get a few. 4. This is restricted lair space. By order of the Hatchery Owners Association, the HOA says trespassing is punishable by death. Thank you, Lucille. All right, Dorothy will take the next one. I love this shit. Lucille, please watch the language. And for one, we said we weren't speaking English anymore, not since the accident. Oh, shut. Sorry, I am backed over. Infestation pit is on the way. Double drop headed across, but the creeps spread already. Now, it wasn't really the defining characteristic of last game. It was definitely dramatic. It drew attention, but Percival did a great job of slowly but surely sweeping it away. Just like he's doing now. Cuts off the active tumor. Makes it that much harder to deal with. Overlord taken down. Road speed almost done. Marines trading kind of poorly, but now Scarlet spamming out those roaches. Gonna give it another shot. 2 infestors. Scarlet infestors on the way. And deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Almost an identical timing with identical supplies. Different map. But Percival moving out with a few tanks, a bunch of Marines. Scarlet working towards a hive very early. Gonna have some infestors. And already has the Roach Ravager, but this is a dangerous push. This isn't designed necessarily to end the game, but if he can get the 4th base, that would be incredible. And, of course, those siege tanks are an existential threat to the entire Zerg army, especially when there's so many roaches involved. But Zergling speed is done. Fungal catches a chunk of the Marines. Corrosive Bow's thrown out, knocks out one of the siege tanks. More at the front. A good spread there from Scarlet. Making sure the siege tanks can't maximize their damage. Here comes the celebratory creep tumors. Queen, natural predator, and there it is. For better or for worse, the Ultralisk Cavern has begun. Oh. Now, Scarlet, it's not that the Ultras are the problem, but you have to bring it all together. You have to make sure they get something done before you lose, say, 30 of them. Because as time goes on, it's easier and easier for the Terran to get more and more efficient. But Scarlet is at 85 drones. Gonna be like 6, 7 hatcheries. I'll just count them whenever it becomes relevant. There's a macro hatch over here. Yeah, 6 hatcheries going on 7. Medevac. Infestors caught in front because, of course, they don't have the fancy water balloons like High Templar. Or guns like Ghosts. Which seems convenient. So they just kind of wander in. Gotta babysit them every second. They're the most dangerous toddlers of the Zerg army. And they live about as long. Banelings rolling in to the backside of the planetary. Don't think it's quite enough Banes to take it out, but we'll kill almost every single SCV. Unfortunately, the Ravagers are on their own. Kind of an awkward engagement, but Scarlet is able to continue driving things back. Zerglings take the wrong path, but overall, the creep spread continues. Scarlet, a casual 1,500 APM. Creep ain't gonna spread itself. Technically true. Percival losing a lot of SCVs and bounces back immediately. Does not have the Iron Bank of Command. In fact, Percival doesn't have 200 supply. So that is the defining characteristic of the match right now. We're not talking about that set piece with enough ghosts and plenty of liberators. No, just struggling to put enough on the field. Corrosive Bow actually dodged it with the Widow Mine. Drilling Claws is done, very importantly. whips out another round. Ultralisk Cavern. Oh, sorry. Ultralisk. Chitinous Plating is already done. +2 Carapace as well. 3/3 upgrades are still a long way off for Percival. So no upgrade advantage to work off. No massive amount of supply to just split off and do a whole bunch of drops. The Ghost Academy is only halfway done. Oh no. Now this, the Baneling speed, all the little mistakes have been shored up, and here comes the Zerg army to smash the Terrans. The Marauders out in front. There's not enough of them. The Banelings rolling through. The Ultras cleaving the siege tanks, able to retreat back down to 4 Ultras. Lings and Banes trickle through and are whittled down, but the Ultra's still getting so much damage done. The Ultra cleaving through the remaining bio will finally be taken down, but it will cost the Planetary Fortress. 60 supply lead for Scarlet. Still rampaging through the third base. Reinforcements sprinting across the field to creep on the front porch. Scarlet will rebuild for another round. But that was near critical damage. Unlike last game, there's no counterattack. There's no 2-3 hatcheries dying on the other side of the map. There's no half a dozen ghosts in production. A single ghost. And 3/3 upgrade is not even done. Scarlet adapted and has overcome. And barring a massive disaster, a Major League Baseball level throw, it seems likely she'll be able to roll over what's left of the Terrans. The bio retreats into the medevacs, freeing up even more space. Widowmine, decent hit. But the Ultras chewing through the door. Ravagers knocking out the tanks. Ultras caught on the other side of this wall off. A burrowed Zergling is blocking the 4th. Scarlet eviscerating the rest of the defenses. Deals with the Ling. But Scarlet has far too much. GG. We're all tied up 1-1. Scarlet showing what she meant to do in the previous game. Alright, credit where credit's due. Percival, underestimating the speed at which the Ultras are going to hit, did not have the Ghost Academy ready, and it cost him dramatically. Not a single hatchery dead. Look at the difference. Well. Oh no. Our final map will be Ultra Love. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? Well, all tied up 1-1. The decider. After several, actually over 50 Ultralists have died in the making of this series. Do you love to see it? Like and subscribe. Quick pause. Go. We don't wait for anyone here. But do it live. Metaphorically. Thank you, Wardy, for breaking the space-time continuum and bringing us back. And that would be the only way he puts on so many incredible community tournaments. And you should check him out. If you're not a vampire like me, then Wardy's probably casting a tournament right now. So, maybe if you watched all the videos. Link in the description. Jimmy, link in the description. Yes, hyperlink. How old are you? No, I don't remember Netscape. And I don't want to know what Jeeves thinks. Ask him yourself. Game 3. We kind of had the same game twice. At least up to about the 10-minute mark. Scarlet filling in the gaps significantly quicker and Percival underestimating it, but it was almost exactly the same builds at the same timings up until that. Just came down to the execution. Now this map is a little bit harder to do aggression on. I say that, but past 4 bases, it's very difficult to expand for either side. It can... We sometimes see dramatic late game, but ley lines is our macro map, and we just kind of blew right past it there. Ultra's coming in like the Kool-Aid man. That's what they're supposed to do. But they have an expiration date. A Reaper being as annoying as ever. But the Queen's already out. Third base is on the way. Percival queued up a grenade, knowing that Scarlet would go for the Creep Tumor first, I think, angling for it. But Scarlet managed to pull back for a moment, make sure the Creep Tumor would survive. Ramil driving the Reaper away. Hellions in production. The barracks abandoning its add-on. And so it begins again. Where do we go from here? Hellions. A Reaper being very wary after the activities of the series so far. Creep Tumor. It's gonna be close. Gets it. Very rude. Oh no. Wait, the Zerglings have already been pre-built. Anticipating this time around we got Zergling speed instead of the Roach Warren. The Hellions are able to slip by, but a couple Zerglings, just enough, gets a hold on most of the Hellions. Only a Reaper and Hellion will survive. Anticipating the run by Scarlet, baiting in masterfully those Hellions and taking out most of them. Though Percival able to slip away at all is a bit lucky. Ghost Academy. What? I saw the cloak. Alright. Not Ghost Academy. Cloak on the way. I just think ghosts with the cloak, I guess. But Banshee cloak in production. They do have the same icon, which is kind of weird. I guess they are the same thing, but they're not. I guess I'd just make one a different color. But I digress. Hellions just lighten up the 4th base. More barracks on the way, but the buildup continues. Working all around the edges. Making sure the creep is cut down to size. And now the reactored starport. Those cloaked banshees. They are not quite done yet. Means no overseer. We'll be starting momentarily. The Hellions, no. Okay. Oh, wait a second. Bit of an awkward engagement. The Banshees spot the Queens moving, but don't decide to engage. Scout has 62 drones. Hydralisk Den is on the way. It's going to be Hydraling. No Bane Nest, actually. Banelings are quite heavy on the Vespene gas, so if you can just get away with going Hydras, doubt it, but still. Poking and prodding at the Banshees. The Zerglings trying to get a grab on some of those SCVs, not quite finding it. Mules dropping. A dozen drones on the way for Scarlet, because of course there are. +1 ranged attack and Carapace in production. 3 more racks. It looks like a full Octo Rax timing out of Percival. Did he spot the Hydra Den? No. Yeah, stopped SCV production, but maybe that's because he's supply blocked, so... But usually with the Octorex, you stop 62 to 65 SCVs, just enough to max out your minerals and support 8 barracks of production. And that seems to be the intent here. No more SCVs on the way. Instead, just mass Marines, tanks, and medevacs. Scarlet. Now, I'm honestly not sure how Mass Hydra stacks up. Usually you have some Banelings mixed in, but Banelings against the sheer amount of tanks and Marines, they can be good. Hydras are more reliable, but get shredded quickly as well. It's going to be a numbers game. It's not necessarily one is better than the other. It's about how much of one you have, which determines whether or not the other even has a chance. Pseudo Wallov there, doing a great job funneling the Zerglings, trying to grab some of the Marines. They don't have combat shield yet. But this time around, Percival very close on supply. With combat shield, this army gets a lot more dangerous. The Hydras, the tanks will unsiege! Scarlet snipes one. She went for Hydra range first in order to, the speed upgrade much less relevant on defense. But just mass Hydras. Couple Infestors about to pop out, trying to hold the high ground. Transfuses, but the Marines, they're just tearing through everything. Oh no. Infestor Fungal is massive. But is it enough? The Marines? Well, getting pin cushioned here. Takes down one medevac, but there's not that critical mass. The Marines are easily able to concentrate their fire. Couple Banshees coming in, making things even more difficult. There's 17 Hydras, but 35 Marines. It's not a 1-to-1, but it's close enough in how much firepower they have. With the medevacs behind as well. A few Marines getting picked off, but the siege tanks get a couple shots. Trying to cut off the reinforcements here. The tank's not quite in position. Scarlet's still holding. This is actually getting a little better for her as time goes on. The longer it takes to break the army, and now the siege tanks will eventually be surrounded and taken down. Get a lot of shots off. The field runs red with the blood of both sides. I fear more Zerg, but Scarlet has 5 bases, 74 drones. Percival's working on 2-2, though. Scarlet just +2 Carapace. Knocks another medevac out of the sky. A siege tank coming around the corner. This creep is about to run out. Oh no, the Hydra's abandoned. You cannot afford to lose any chunk of these. 1 or 2, but that many at once. Clearly looking the other way for just a moment. A costly fight, and the supply gap closes dramatically. It's going to be a 1 upgrade advantage for the Marines, and they can compound it so quickly with those medevacs. Siege tanks, and here we go again. The same spot at a similar time. Just getting so much done. Those drones, 86 drones, Scarlet! How does this keep happening? Well, because the moment Terran units are driven back, she queues up every drone possible. Which, if you survive, it's a big if at this point. Percival still a little behind. Some of the reinforcements cut off by the roaming Hydras. But the Marine count is still damn high. The Infestor has recharged a Fungal, but 4 Marines are split off to help deal with it. Even more reinforcements cut. But the Hydras outflanked by the Marines on the bridge! Oh no! It's a disaster! Scarlet again. Hydra's just not the most maneuverable creatures. Struggling. Gonna get the siege tanks, but the Marines will come to cut down the rest of the Hydralists. And Scarlet in turn. An optimistic strategy. But, and honestly, there was a chance. There was a dream. But Hydras have little to no room for error. They're made out of bubblegum, shoestring, and dreams. And if they don't have anything in front of them, need to be in the very right place before the right time. And unfortunately, for Scarlet, they just weren't. Percival, perceiving a perfect timing, and cuts right through. Using the map, all the maps and strategies well. Just a little bit different, but to great effect. So I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I hope it made your day just a little bit better. And if you got the means and motivation, it'd be great to check out Patreon. And what I hear, liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. Thank you to our mule tier patrons, though, for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jiggy Devin, Door, Kate, Mario Suit, and everyone. Glad you still enjoy. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, hopefully. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill. Be careful with your lisks. Come on. All right, let's just build Vipers like a normal person.